Hey, it's Jessica Goose here with RealAgriculture.com, and joining me right now at FarmTech 2020 is the keynote speaker, Timothy Caulfield. Timothy, how are you doing today?
Great. Looking forward to the event.
Yes, it's you're closing out the show. No pressure. Although
I love it.
I personally heard you speak in the past, and you bring a lot of insight and a lot of things that are thought-provoking to the table, and that's what we're hoping to cover in the quick interview that we have here with you. First things first, and it might not even be agriculture related, but I just have to know the take on Goop and the latest with Gwyneth Paltrow, and I can say this, the nonsense that she's bringing to the table when it comes to what you need to insert and do and everything to your and smell, right? A certain candle comes to mind that I'm not going to say what kind of candle it is, but I'm sure you know. What's the latest on this?
I actually had to take the candle slide out of my talk because I thought it was just too much.
It is too much
for a dinner talk. But it is incredible. Goop is amazing. I've been following it for really since it started. And she's accelerating. The nonsense, the pseudoscience is accelerating. And look, she's just one part of a broader social phenomenon, and that's why I think she's interesting to follow, because this is the age of misinformation, and Gwyneth is such a great example of that. So she has this new show on Netflix. I don't know if you saw it.
I haven't yet. No, I haven't.
And it's just ridiculous. It's actually worse than I anticipated. And there is an agricultural connection here, because she makes a lot of comments on the website about how you're supposed to eat, the kinds of food you're supposed to eat, what's healthy, what's not healthy. And of course, it's all completely detached from science. So I think she's actually a really good example of the place we are right now, and when in our relationship with science anyway.
Now, the research that you do, it's kind of terrifying, isn't it, when you see this and you see the full trend and the full followership that she has for this, and you say, this is kind of the era that we're in. How and when, or what do you see in your crystal ball of this stopping, and maybe people actually thinking, I should get a second opinion on an egg that I'm going to eat that might have been somewhere, right?
So, it's interesting because I think it's a good news, bad news story. Okay, so the good news is, I don't know if you've noticed this too, but the good news is more and more people are taking this seriously. More and more people are recognizing the adverse impact that misinformation can have, whether you're talking about infectious disease, whether you're talking about the food that we eat or the exercise that we do. I think there's growing recognition that this topic, the spread of misinformation, the impact of celebrity culture, social media, it matters, right? So that's good news. And you're seeing that from the World Health Organization to universities to governments. The bad news is that it's a really tough fight. So we are seeing more and more research emerge about what we can do, what kind of strategies work, and I'll talk a little bit about that tonight. What works. But it's a tough fight. Look, the reach of pop culture, when Gwyneth Paltrow talks about whether you should drink milk or not, that is heard by millions. And people are just exposed to this nonsense. So it's an interesting time. There's really interesting tensions out there. So a little bit of good news. We're starting to take this seriously, but I think that there should be a call to arms. All of us need to get involved.
Come together.
That's right.
Exactly.
Go science. Go science.
Exactly. So kind of speaking of food here, when it comes to the plant craze, and even this past week, we have seen that Tim Hortons Canada has pulled out of Ontario and BC, which I believe are the last two provinces to have the Beyond Meat burger and breakfast sandwich. And, classic PR marketing is saying, it was just a test run. It was just a trial. No, you were really trying to push this forward. You really wanted consumers to dive into this, and they didn't. They really pulled back. They didn't see the numbers there. Do you see plant-based meats still going on the up and up, and we're going to be seeing more meatballs and all this, that, and the third thing? Or do you think it's kind of hit its peak?
I bet you're going to agree with me on this. And again, you're going to hate this answer. I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I don't think we're ever going to go back to people not considering this, right?
Okay.
I really do think that people are looking for different ways to eat, rightly or not.
Yeah.
Right? We're seeing an evolution in how people eat.
Choice.
Yeah, not just in Canada, really all over the world, of course, right? So we're seeing that, and I think that's going to have an impact not only on the Canadian markets, but other markets. So I think that's the case. But I also think that, hey, this turned out to be way more complex than people anticipated. The big push was with these products was they were not only better for the environment, and that's complex in itself, whether it's true or not, we can have an interesting conversation, but they were healthier, and that's why people are attracted to these things. But as you know, the evidence doesn't really support that claim in a strong way. So I think consumers are looking at this in a more nuanced way, and it's not a clear market.
No.
Would you agree with that?
I would. I would say that it's people want options now, right? People are changing it up. I mean, I hear everything from Meatless Mondays to obviously Taco Tuesdays, things like that, right? But people want to have different options here, there, and everywhere, and people are willing to try things more and more now. You've kind of gotten away from the whole, mashed potatoes and steak for dinner every day. They want to have, a chicken breast sometimes. They want to have turkey sometimes. So I agree with you in that there needs to be some sort of choice there, and I don't think we will ever see plant protein-based anything fall. It will kind of go up, but yeah, it's kind of in that kind of paused area right now where we're not really seeing anything new, or at least I haven't. Maybe you have. Have you?
No,
in your travels?
But the other interesting thing is that you look at these debates even around. I'm sure you saw the debates around the meat study that came out.
Yep.
You're seeing those kind of really intense debates emerge now, which is interesting. But I spent the summer in Germany, and you would not believe, this is the place of sausage and
schnitzel, everything.
You would not believe the number of vegan and vegetarian restaurants there, right? Yeah. So I think this is an evolution.
Yeah.
And the classic kind of meat and potatoes dinner, as you point out, I think those days are gone. But I think that we're going to have to figure out ways in which we can negotiate the new environment.
Speaking of consumers, we've heard it talked about a lot in the past, the rise of the conscious consumer, and really they are kind of diving into what they're looking for. Do you feel like that's going to get even more complicated now with companies having ties to certain things? I think we saw a couple months ago, I want to say it's Chipotle, that supported a lot of anti-LGBT kind of organizations, and all of a sudden they have had protesters and everything there because people are really tying and really looking back at what they're eating. Do you find that that's going to be progressed now?
I think that's definitely going to be a trend. People are looking for those links. And again, it's one of those really interesting stories because we know that those links actually do matter, right? Rightly or not, people have different ideological views, but they can have an impact on, conflicts of interest and things like that can matter. And people want, increasingly, people want products that align with their personal brand, right? And I think that that's often what's going on. In some respects, not to bring her back to Goop.
Yeah.
That's why she's successful, right? You may not think that you may not believe everything that she says, but her gestalt might line up with your self-image. And I think we know that from research, people make food decisions based on, does it reflect who they are, right? And so I think that is going to happen more and more.
We'll see more and more. Now, you mentioned it here a little bit, misinformation. Coronavirus is spreading like wildfire right now. Even hearing that the numbers out of China really aren't that low. They're almost triple, if not quadruple, what we're seeing as far as deaths go, as far as contamination sites, all of that. You recently, actually, because I follow you on Twitter, you recently kind of tweeted an article about that misinformation. Why is it so crucial to really do your own digging and making sure that what you're sharing is the correct stuff?
Yeah, it is that's a great message. Exactly what you said there. That's the conclusion.
Yeah.
So I really think it is a very important when you're talking about an outbreak, whether you have something that there really is a health crisis playing out. You want to make sure what you're spreading online is scientifically accurate. And it's really difficult to do that because we're seeing this polarized discourse about this, and we're seeing conspiracy theories about the coronavirus, and we're seeing misinformation about even the severity of it, right? So, and the other thing we're seeing is misinformation about how to deal with it. You're seeing homeopaths step in saying we've got cures and people trying to profit off this. So I think it's a great idea to be very careful about the information that you access. So go to World Health Organization, CDC in the US, Public Health Agency of Canada. Go to these trusted sources for the information and try not to spread misinformation. I think that's really all we can do.
Credible information is your friend. Lastly here, speaking of credible information, unfortunately we have been seeing this in the past, and it's not just recent. We've seen it for years. Kind of the backlash when it does come to science-based facts. Do you feel as though that science will kind of have its chance again to reign supreme, or do you feel like people are going to just kind of hide in their echo chambers of what they want to hear?
I'm forever the optimist, right? Yeah. The glass half full. I do think we're seeing more and more people mobilize towards science. We're seeing more and more voices get on social media. Yes, the noise is always going to be there. So I'm optimistic that it's going to draw us back even a little bit. Even a little bit, I think, would be helpful. But the thing I think people need to realize is that science, it's not an institution. Science is not a person. Science isn't an industry. Science is a process, right? And I think that we need that critical thinking skills. We need that science literacy to help us see the light. And so that's what I'm hopeful for. I'm hopeful that educational institutions recognize that. I hope governments recognize that. And I hope the people recognize that.
And like you said before, we need to band together to really make our voices heard when it comes to science. Well, Timothy, thank you very much for your time here. And good luck tonight. It should be a good speech, and I'm excited for it.
Well, thanks very much. I'm looking forward to it.
For sure.